look back. This is where we talk real, no filters, no cap. Straight to the top and we never look back. Leaders in the building, money on the mind. Leveling up daily, leaving limits behind. Pull up, tune in. It's time to get it done. The Millionaire Nurse Podcast has officially begun. Let's go. Tune in every week.
The lies you've been told about social media as a nurse ends today. Every day, nurses unknowingly putting their license, their jobs, and their businesses at risk because of 4 dangerous lies they were told, or never told at all, about social media. Today, I'm going to break down all the rules, the risk, and the framework that protects your brand and your credentials. There is a nurse somewhere right now, brilliant, credentialed, working on her side business, and she just filmed a TikTok in the break room. She's in her scrubs. The hospital logo is right there on her badge, hanging on a lanyard. She posted it, got 10,000 views, and she thinks that's a win until HR calls. Because here's what nobody told her, and what nobody told most of y'all, is the moment that you film on your employer's property in your employer's uniform, you may have just handed them a piece of your content. You may have just violated a policy you never read. You may have just put your license in a conversation you never meant to start. And the wildest part, nobody warned her. The nursing school didn't teach it. The preceptor didn't mention it. And the organization, they didn't bring it up either until they needed to. The social media rules that protect your license, your job, and your business are sitting in a document at your organization right now. Most nurses have never read it. The ones who have never thought it would apply to their personal brand. And the ones building businesses are doing it completely blind. That blindness is not your fault. But letting it continue, now that's on you. Today, we fix all of it. I'm Dr. V, Dr. Viola Pierce, Doctor of Nursing Practice, CEO of VP Nursing, certified speaker and coach and trainer, and your host here on the Millionaire Nurse CEO podcast. On this podcast, we help nurse leaders unleash income working from anywhere, building profitable nurse coaching, consulting, and service-based businesses. Now, before we go any further, I know some of you are already in your feelings right now. You're thinking, Dr. V, I have posted 1,000 times and nothing happened. And I hear you. I really do. But here's the deal. The fact that nothing happened yet is not the same thing as being protected. We don't build businesses on nothing happened yet. We build them on a solid foundation that nobody can take from us. And this episode is not about scaring you away from social media. Social media is literally one of the most powerful tools nurse entrepreneurs have right now. And it is free, it is global, and it works. What I want you to walk away with today is the framework, the clarity, so that you can show up boldly on social media without looking over your shoulder. But here's the deal. I have seen what happens when nurses don't know these rules. I have seen what organizations can and will do when they feel their brand, their patients, or their reputation has been touched. And the nurses who got caught in those situations, they weren't bad people. They were just unprotected. They didn't know. The nurse who knows her rights, knows her policy, knows how to build her brand, that nurse is untouchable. That is who we are building today. And hey, if this episode is already landing for you, go ahead and like it. Subscribe if you haven't already and drop a comment. Tell me, have you ever thought about your organization's social media policy as it relates to you and your business? Drop a yes or a no. I read every single one. Let's get into it. Here's the first lie you were told about social media as a nurse. And this one is the most dangerous. The lie is you didn't sign anything about social media, so you're fine. The policy blind spot, it is the dangerous assumption that if no one specifically walked you through a social media policy during orientation, that policy doesn't exist or it doesn't apply to you. Both assumptions are wrong. Every Joint Commission accredited hospital in America has a social media policy. It is in your employee handbook. And when you sign your offer letter or your annual acknowledgement, you agree to be bound by it, whether you read it or not. This is the deal. That policy tells you exactly what you can and cannot do. It tells you whether you can mention the name of your employer. It tells you whether you can film on premises. It tells you whether you can use your logo, their name, their brand in any way. And for nurses who are building coaching and consulting businesses on the side, this matters even more. Now, most policies are not as restrictive as nurses fear. Actually, many of them have carved out for personal content. But you will never know that if you never read the document. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to find your organization's social media policy before you film one more piece of content. Not to be scared of it, to be informed by it. Because an informed nurse is a protected nurse. Now there's this thing called the policy blind spot. Assuming that if no one told you, you're fine. And that matters. But here's where it gets really interesting, because reading the policy is just the first step. What most nurses do next is actually where the real risk lives. Let me tell you about a mistake I see nurse entrepreneurs make every single day. They film at work. And I don't mean they're sharing patient information, usually. They know better than that. What I'm talking about is simpler than that. They're in the break room. They're at the nurse's station. They're in the parking garage. They're walking out to their car in the hospital parking lot. The badge is visible. The scrubs are branded. And they're talking about their coaching business, their consulting services, their service-based businesses, or their next live training. The uniform tax, the invisible professional and legal costs nurses pay when they film content connected to their employer's property or their employer's image, even when the content itself has nothing to do with their job. Here's why this matters. When you film on your employer's property, you have introduced a potential question of ownership. You have blurred the lines between their brand and your brand. And in a worst case scenario, if a conflict even arose between you and your employer, now they have documented connection between their property and your personal business activity. Filming on employer property while building a business creates a liability that you do not need. And the fix is free. Film at home. Film in your car, in your own driveway. Film at a park. Film at a coffee shop. Film anywhere that is not on your employer's premises. Now I know what you're thinking right now, but Dr. V, I work night shifts. I live at that hospital. When am I supposed to film? I'm telling you this. You have time. You have a phone. You have your home. And if your home is the only place you can record, then your home becomes your studio. The badge is another piece of this. I want you to hear me. If your badge is visible, if your employer's name is on that lanyard, that ID, that scrub top, take it off before you hit record. I want you to hear me. Take off the badge. Remove the identifying items. You are building your business, not theirs. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the uniform isn't just physical. There is a digital uniform that's even harder to see. That one is doing the most damage. Scroll through almost any nurse's LinkedIn right now, or their Instagram bio, or their TikTok profile, and you will see it. ICU nurse at hospital name, aspiring entrepreneur. NP at said healthcare system, building my consulting business. Nurse leader, organization name. The digital tether, the visible, searchable connection between your personal brand online and the organization that employs you, quietly limiting your freedom, your income, and your professional future in ways you haven't fully thought through. Here's the deal. You are not marketing your employer. You have a personal brand. You have an audience. You have followers who are watching your content and potentially making business decisions based on your credibility. When your employer's name is attached to your personal brand profiles, here's what happens. First, you may be violating a policy you signed. Many organizations have rules about using their name or likeness in non-official communications. A personal Instagram bio qualifies. Second, and this one people don't talk about enough, you cannot market your coaching services to the organization you work for. That is a conflict of interest. That is a solicitation issue. And if you're sitting there wondering, but doesn't it help people know I'm a real nurse? I want you to hear me. Your credentials, your DNP, your NP, your RN, your years of experience. That is your credibility. Your degrees doesn't belong to your employer. Your clinical training doesn't belong to your employer. Your brain doesn't belong to your employer. The only thing that belongs to them during work hours is your labor. Your expertise is still yours. Removing your employer from your social media profiles doesn't diminish your credibility, it protects it. And it signals to the market that you are a professional with a brand, not an employee with a side hustle. Your degree is yours. Your experience is yours. Your brand is yours. Your employer's name, give that back. Now, most nurses hear this and they clean up the profile, which is great. But there is a fourth piece that nobody talks about, and this one is the one that actually frees you. Here's a lie that has kept some nurses so small longer than anything else that I can name. The lie is, if you're a nurse, everything you do is your employer's business. And I am here to tell you that is completely false. The clock freedom rule, what you build, create, film, teach, sell, or market on your own time with your own resources belongs entirely to you, not your employer. The moment you clock out, your time is your own. The expertise in your head, the frameworks you have developed, the systems you created from years of clinical leadership, all of that lives in you, not in your employer's building. When you go home and build a coaching business from that expertise, you are not stealing your employer. You are investing in yourself. Now, there's a limit to know here. And a good attorney can walk you through your specific state laws and your employment contracts. But generally speaking, a nurse who goes home and coaches other nurses or starts a service-based business like a home health company is not violating her employer's intellectual property. A nurse who develops curriculum on nurse leadership and sells it online is not using her employer's trade secrets. The knowledge you earn through years of practice, that belongs to you. And this is important. You cannot market your services to the organization's patients while they are in the building. You cannot use your access to the organization's internal systems, data, or contacts while you build your business. And you cannot represent that the organization endorses your work or is affiliated with it. You're probably asking yourself right now, so where exactly is the line? Here's the line. Your expertise is yours. The organization's infrastructure, brand, and resources are not. Keep those two things separated in your mind, in your content, and in your profiles, and you are building on clean ground. Here's what I want you to take away from everything we talked about today. I want you to have something you can actually use, a framework that covers every piece of this. I call it the CLEAR protocol. Clear because when you apply this, your social media strategy and your business are clean, protected, credible, and completely yours. C stands for check your policy. Find it, read it, understand it. Not to be limited by it, but to be informed by it. You cannot navigate a road you've never looked at. Know what your organization says about social media, filming on property, using your organization's names, and outside business activity. This is the deal. The policy is usually not as scary as you think, but you have to read it. L is leave the property. Never film professional content on your employer's grounds. Not in the break room, not in the parking lot, not in the lobby. Your home, your car, a neutral location, that is your studio. When you leave the property, you leave the uniform tax behind. E stands for erase the tether. Go to every social media profile you have now, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and remove your employer's name from your bio, your handle, your content descriptions. You are doctor, whatever your name is, nurse entrepreneur, not hospital name, nurse turned entrepreneur. Let your credentials speak. Let your results speak. Let your employer stay out of it. A stands for assert your time. Know confidently, legally, factually that your off-clock hours are yours. What you build after 5 o'clock on your phone in your home office with your own tools, that is your intellectual capital. Assert it. Own it. Stop acting like you need permission to build a life outside your job. R, run your own brand. Build content from your platform for your audience under your name, not your employer's name, not your certification body's name, your name, your story, your framework. Because at the end of the day, the nurse who builds a brand runs a business. The nurse who stays tethered to her employer's identity stays an employee. When you apply the clear protocol, you show up on social media without fear. You build your business without apology, and you protect everything you've worked for, your license, your reputation, and your bag. The nurse who knows her rights, knows her policy, and knows how to build her brand is untouchable. Y'all, we've covered a lot today. We talked about the policy blind spot and why reading your organization's social media policy isn't optional. We talked about the uniform tax and why filming on employer property is a risk you do not need to take. We talked about the digital tether and why your employer's name in your bio is limiting your brand and your freedom. We talked about the clock freedom rule, because what you build on your own time with your own resources belongs entirely to you. And we walked through the clear protocol, the framework that protects your license, your business, and your brand all at once. Here's the deal. Social media is a gift for nurses in business. It is the great equalizer. It gives you a platform, an audience, a microphone, all for free. The nurses who learn to use it with intention, with protection, with a brand that belongs entirely to them, these are the nurses who will build in 6- and 7-figure businesses without drama, without risk, and without looking over their shoulders. I'm telling you this with all my heart. You have built something powerful inside of you through years of nursing. It is time you bring that power to the market on your own terms. If this episode helped you think differently today, share it with a nurse who needs to hear it. And I want to know, what is the one clear protocol step you are starting this week? Drop it in the comments. Let me know which letter you're activating first. I read every single one. Subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned, because the next episode, y'all are not ready. We're talking about the exact moment you should stop asking your employer for permission for anything. You are going to want to be here for that.